want to welcome everybody to the Planning and Zoning Board meeting for February 2026, and glad you're here. If you'll bow with me, we'll have a prayer before the meeting starts. Most gracious and loving Heavenly Father, we're so thankful to be here today to see to the needs of the city. We pray that you'll be with us as we hear people talk about what they would like to plan for the city. We pray we'll give it careful thought and consideration in our judgments. We pray that you would be with all the firefighters, police officers, first responders of the city. We pray that you'll keep them safe. We pray, Father, that you grant us peace on earth, peace in these United States. We ask this prayer in Christ's name. Amen. Adam, has anything changed on the agenda tonight?
No, I don't have anything.
May I have a motion to approve the agenda as written?
So moved.
We have a motion to approve and a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Motion passes. Has everybody had a chance to look at the minutes from the January 2026 meeting? Is there any additions or corrections that need to be made? May I have a motion to approve the minutes for the January meeting?
So moved.
Mayor Tenen moves for approval. A second, please. Second by Mr. Parnell. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Motion passes. Now is the time we allow people in the audience to come and speak on things of interest to them. If you do come to the podium, we ask you to state your name and address, and we ask you to keep your comments to 3 minutes or less. Is there anybody here that would like to address the board? If you'd like to come and speak into the microphone and state your name and address.
Thank you. My name is David Smith. I live at 201 Rose Hill Drive in Goodlettsville. And I believe the gentleman is coming, I don't know if I'm speaking ahead of time, about a permit about building on Rose Hill. And is there to speak about that?
Sure.
Okay. Well, anyway, we've been a resident since February of 1990, and I've never attended one of your meetings here. So I'm glad to finally attend one. But anyway, I wanted to say how much we love living in Goodlettsville and how we have just enjoyed every year. It's been a wonderful, we believe that Goodlettsville is the best kept secret. And I was telling you earlier, we believe that every year we look forward to the Christmas and the fall festivities. But anyway, back to what I wanted to say is this gentleman is, I think, planning or wanting to build. We live at the very dead end on Rose Hill. Our house is on the left, and there's a neighbor across the street from us. And pretty much that dead end, the years that we've been there since 1990, the only excitement we've ever seen was people not paying attention to the stop sign about 100 yards back and going really fast at night or when it's snowing and doing headers, we call it Dukes of Hazzards over that dead end. I mean, just airborne. So anyway, when I saw this fella, Tom Harris, he showed us his plan. The first thing that I noticed in his plan was a turnaround in his buildings that he's going to put up. So I thought, well, that'll help us. We've had our fence knocked down a few times. We've had our mailbox knocked down a few times, neighbor also. But when I noticed that turnaround, we thought, well, that'll help me, help our neighbor, but it'll help a lot of other people that live on Rose Hill. So we're fine with it, and he seems to be a fine, nice young gentleman, and it looks wonderful to us, and we're in support of it. I don't know him. We've only just recently met him. but just wanted to put our 2 cents worth and say we hope that that's a possibility, because there's been needing to be something at that dead end the last 40 years that I've lived there. Something, some kind of a turnaround, something, but it hadn't been. So if he proceeds with that and is allowed, there's a nice turnaround that's going to help a lot of people. And thank y'all again, and we appreciate all that y'all do for Goodlettsville. We love it, and we love living here. Thank y'all.
Hey, can you come back next month as well?
I'd be glad to.
Give us this pep talk?
Well, but I'm sincere. We love this city. We love the people. Even when I come pay the light bill, the ladies here are always so friendly. And we would not even consider living anywhere else but Goodlettsville. And Maskers, the Christmas bell service, we attend the bell service at the Methodist Church here. And they're just, and that's not even our home church, but the people are so sweet and kind that there's something real special about Goodlettsville that's, I call it, in a way, rural. We're on the, we're kind of close to it, but I moved here years ago to play the lead guitar for the Oak Ridge Boys. And I played on the Grand Ole Opry for about 40 years. So I love this city, and I love Nashville, but I love Goodlettsville. Thank y'all. God bless y'all.
Thank you. I don't know about y'all, but I feel better. Yeah. Anybody else wish to address the board? Yes, sir.
My name is Jim Snyder, and I was at the last meeting. I just wanted to, first of all, I can't top that, so I'm not even going to try. But I want to thank you all for your discussion on the SDUs and ADUs. I know it's on the agenda for discussion, so thank you for doing that. My daughter and son-in-law may be here to run just a little bit late, but I just want to speak in support of at least the SDU part of this discussion. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Seeing none, do I have a motion to close the public forum? We have a motion to close, a second? We have a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Public forum is closed. Appreciate that. We're ready for item number 4. Is anybody here representing this? Is anybody here representing item number 4? We don't have an agenda. I couldn't hear that.
The Rivergate Mall subdivision plat. My computer's
Okay, you don't have the agenda. This is for the Rivergate Mall redevelopment for the subdivision plat. Okay? Come to the podium, please, and give us your name.
Good evening, Planning Commission. Kate Jarash, Maris, on behalf of Rivergate MP Holdings LLC, which will be the owner in a few short days of the Rivergate Mall.
Okay, thank you. We'll get right back to you. Adam?
What's going on with the, hold on one second, let me see if I can get the PowerPoint come back on. I had the, right before it came on, it died on me. I don't know what's Rivergate, I'll go ahead and hopefully get it for the next item. The first item, item number 4, Rivergate Matt, Cecil Incorporated. It's a final subdivision plat to combine existing parcels totaling 57 acres into a couple tracts. We approved this in December, if y'all remember, a large tract. We created a new property up on the Rivergate Parkway where the kind of Macy's areas was. But my understanding, Dillard's, the properties were not included. All right, thanks. So the subdivision plat this month is a revision to include the Dillard's property. It's part of a land swap between Dillard's and the developer. But this is the property in the city of Goodlettsville. As you can see, there's 2 tracts owned by Dillard's. So with the revised subdivision plat, this is becoming a tract, and this will all become a tract. So it's like a land swap. We had to show that on the plat. Wasn't included last month or in December, but that's what this revision is for, to incorporate those. Majority of those properties are in Davidson County's portion, but we do have a portion in Goodlettsville also. So we just want to make sure we're doing a lot combination and reworking it, that we include those properties also. So they record one subdivision plat when all the purchase agreements are in place, so.
Do you have anything to add? Okay, any questions from the board?
And the options there will be, one, to, we could approve it since it meets our subdivision plat requirements. Deny the subdivision plats, we have to define why we're denying it, or we could defer it to include additional information. My recommendation would be item 1 to approval. So this isn't basically an alteration of what we've already approved.
Okay, any comments from the board?
I have a question of the board. Is part of this not in Goodlettsville? Or is it part of?
On this particular item, most of it is not in Goodlettsville.
Yeah, the yellow is what's our portion of it in Goodlettsville. The city limits, as you can see that bold line, that's kind of the boundary. So a larger tract of the dealer's property is not in our city, but there's where the parking in front of the food court basically is the area we're talking about.
Yeah, the entire Dillard's store is in Metro.
Yeah, there's the dealer's store right there, so.
Okay, staff recommends approval of this, so do I have a motion?
Move to approve.
Mr. Parnell moves to approve. Do I have a second? Second by Mr. Barnesfield. Any other comments? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item number 5.
I'm still here.
Are you here for item number 5 as well?
Yeah.
Okay.
Mine too.
Is your name still the same?
Still is, and
Okay.
we're still excited.
Request revised preliminary master plan to include the revised location of a residential use per the previous master plan amendment. Adam.
All right, again, in December, we approved a revision to the original master plan. If y'all remember, the Rivergate redevelopment plan was improved in 2 phases. The first was the 11 acres around Macy's. Then we come back and did the remaining tract, couple months in between them. And in December, up on phase 1, where the old Macy's was, we approved a revision. It was one of the 2 hotels was being shown removed. And in turn, we got a 80,000 plus square foot retail center. So we're cool with that. There was an apartment in phase 1, and we talked about that would be moved to additional phase. And the townhouse unit got moved in phase 1. So there's kind of switching things around. This is an extension of that. So in this portion of the project, there's actually some left. We're not talking about this area, it's still left. But in this portion of the project, they're wanting to move the 340 unit apartment complex we talked about at the December meeting. And what this area had was the sports and entertainment use. I think unfortunately that's probably not gonna happen for us. And I think some medical offices. There will be some additional commercial kind of areas left here, and I think some of the stuff's changing with the metro jurisdiction portion of it. But this request is to basically relocate those apartments we moved out of phase 1 here in this location.
Okay, do you have anything to add? Any questions from the board?
I emailed y'all last Friday, kind of a breakdown of what, everything that's been approved, everything that's changing.
Yeah, I left it on my desk by accident. You want, but I understood what you were saying.
Yeah, I just wanted to kind of, because there was a question at the city commission meeting about what all's changed.
And your recommendation is for approval?
Oh, I'm sorry. Motion also, we could approve the final master plan amendment, or master plan amendment based on attention for a mixed-use project, and not altering the overall mixed-use design concept, the original. That'd be my recommendation. Or 2, we could deny it if we feel like it's altering the original overall design intention, or we could defer it to include additional information determined by the planning commission.
Okay, do I have a motion from the board?
I just have one quick
Oh,
question.
got a question, okay.
Just out of curiosity, is there just not the sports and entertainment? I don't know what that was actually focused to. I don't know what you were kind of aiming at with that. Is there just no market need for that at this point?
Yeah, I mean, all the changes, as I spoke to you last month, all the changes that we made have been market-driven.
Did we have some hope for sports and entertainment? Is that something we were pushing, or was that just in the original plan?
It was in original, I think they had a possibility originally.
Okay, that just went away.
Our goal originally was just to get as much commercial as we could. And that's why, you know, we got 80+ thousand with the phase one. Switching one of the hotels out, it looks like we still got one, second hotel, but.
Okay, okay, thanks.
Any other questions or comments? And do I have a motion from the board?
Move to approve.
Who's that? Is it? Mr. Parnell moves to approve. Do I have a second? Second by Ms. Wheeler. Any further comments? All those in favor for approval, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you very much. This is the
And
last
when
time
will
you'll
this
see
be
me before we get started, so.
Yeah, when will this start?
We are a couple weeks away.
Okay,
Yep.
Very
So
good.
we're at the finish line. We really appreciate your assistance. Thank you.
all right. Looking forward to it. Item number 6. Is anybody here representing item number 6, the Rose Hill Park subdivision?
Thank you, Commissioner. Brian Hamilton with Nashville Civil. I'm here with the owner, Tom Harris, and architect John Calhoun. And also we have Mr. Silas Mathis with us. Silas, I used to submit plans to Silas. He used to be with TDEC. Now he's the private company. But we're working through our approvals with TDEC. We've got a stream, well, 2 streams, I guess, but those minor issues, I think we can take care of those and get the approval needed.
Okay, let me get back to you in just a minute, if you don't mind. We'll let Adam explain everything,
All right.
then we'll get your chance to talk.
About a year and a half ago, we approved a conceptual layout for 3 lots. This property is zoned R10. It was zoned R10 when we approved it. It'll, of course, allows 2-unit residential dwellings. That's what they're shown here, 3 2-dwelling units on 3 properties. A possible 4th lot back here for a house, my understanding was originally discussed. This is Rose Hill, Harris Street. It's the property kind of in between it. There is a stream that goes through it. So that was my understanding. We approved the concept with the 3 lots with the 2 units, and then a possible 4th lot for a single unit back here. So the next part after the concept plan was the preliminary plat construction plan. That's where we're at this point. If you remember, we talked about a couple things with this project originally. It's got a cul-de-sac, like an extension of Rose Hill. The intention is for this to be a private drive cul-de-sac. Our public road stops here on Rose Hill. We talked to them about options. I mean, we prefer, of course, it be a public street extension, but I think they wanted to keep it private, the cul-de-sac itself. So that will be something they'll have to maintain in the future with the final subdivision plat. We'll have to see maintenance agreements and things of that nature. There's still some question on the design itself. This project, when you come down Rose Hill, that's called what they call public stormwater. You got the water coming off the public ditches coming down. So we've asked them to kind of separate that from the private water. The private water is everything from basically this point they're creating on their development. Because what's tricky about that is the stormwater pond, the water quality, stormwater quantity pond, the goal is to bypass the public water that's coming down the road and then focus their treatment only on the private stuff. As you see on the grading plan here, this property's got a lot of slope to it. If you remember, originally we talked about the road grades. Unfortunately, Rose Hill's probably got 17% road grade coming down. And we talked about options. Our maximum grade on U Street's 10%, and then cul-de-sacs are actually 5. But to put that in, try to transition a 17% grade to a 5% grade, it's just not going to work. The lots will be so steep you couldn't even walk up them. So what we kind of just accepted, that we would just maintain the road grade we have. It is a little less, it's like 13 through the cul-de-sac, but that was kind of the design we looked at, just to getting that transition to work and accepting the existing road. It was just going to be a lot of problems. So that basically these plans are with the understanding there's a variance from that street grade to match what's kind of there. And actually, like I said, the cul-de-sac is a little less steep than Rose Hill itself, but still 13% grade. Talked to the fire chief about it originally. They didn't feel like it'd be, it's not something that will limit their ability to service the properties itself. The detention pond there, shown at the back of the properties, there's a question about it and what they were talking about through TDEC. We have in our stormwater ordinance, which was a model ordinance provided by TDEC for us, we require a 60-foot average width buffer on each side, like on certain defined creeks, ones that are basically, they call them, they have silt or other materials where they're not, basically they're not ideal water quality, so that we do require a buffer, 60-foot average with a minimum dimension of 30 foot. And what they're proposing, especially in this area here around that, is to do some grading in that 30-foot buffer. What that would be an ordinance or a variance to our stormwater ordinance, and talk with our design engineer reviewer that's here, or our consultant engineer reviewer that's here. Before we could process that, we would have to make sure TDEC is okay with that. I don't think we've ever had that come up, and it sounds like they're kind of working through that process, but we just need to make sure that's in place. So we have a couple of comments left on it. They did bring in the architectural renderings for the home. I passed along, as you can see, the great looking buildings. Originally that was one of the things kind of stood out, was the high quality of the home design, but we just need to make sure that it meets our minimum material requirements, and of course those units would. So staff stipulations, one TDEC approval for the stream buffer alteration. They're working through that currently, but we just need to make sure, because that could impact the detention pond, stormwater pond. If they can't, they'll have to alter that. I don't think it would really affect the units, but we want to make sure that's correct. Complete city engineer, consultant, and city staff plan review comments prior to any project land disturbance permit issuance. We would need full plan details. We need the information about lot dimensions, utility and drainage easement locations, complete stormwater facility design. Our sewer department requests a sewer capacity service and design approval. Building designs, which we did get tonight. We will require a street light in the cul-de-sac, and they'll have to get that through National Service, when the NES, their manual they offer. Motion options: one, we can approve the construction plans with defined staff stipulations. The construction plans include the reference subdivision regulations, street cul-de-sac slope variances I talked about. Two, we could deny the construction plans and define the needed plan amendments based on the Planning Commission's determination during the meeting that the construction plans do not meet the city's requirements and zoning ordinance, because this is a zone property, so that we're not dealing with any kind of zoning issues. This is just administrative at this point. Or three, we do further request for the applicant to provide additional information. We'll make sure those we feel more comfortable with the plan review comments and any additional items this Planning Commission requests. My recommendation would be to defer it. We felt there's some things left out there we need on it before we feel comfortable recommending approval, even with conditions. But I am impressed with the house design. I think that the people in Rose Hill will be glad to see that look on those units. This was approved before our recent ordinance amendment, so it's under the old rules, the 50% brick or stone requirement. I talked to them earlier today, or earlier this evening, about the garage. They are showing garage on the back of the units, which will look great, and there's enough length of surface parking getting back there that'll meet the 4 off-street requirements per unit, because you go all the way down the unit and behind it. So plenty of off-street parking. You have visitor parking on it. I would hope they would look at making that a public street, but if they want to keep that private, that is an option for them. So.
Okay, anything you'd like to add, sir?
Sure. I guess I'd like to talk about motion number 1, approve the construction plans. We're going to resubmit based on the comments that we had with the the outside reviewers. But that resubmittal is largely going to be the submittal that's in front of you. We're going to change the routing of one storm pipe to take it not into the bioretention area and show some easements. But that's about that's the changes. We're not going to change the location of the units, not going to change the design of the cul-de-sac, not going to change anything, really. So I guess I would be asking for the number one motion on that list. But I can answer any questions that you may have.
Mr. Chairman, what could he do if we approved with what he has to wait for? What's the push that you couldn't wait till you get all the things we need before? What are you going to do in the meantime?
Just obtain the TDEC approval, really, between, yeah,
But you'll be doing that anyway.
correct, yes.
Any other comments?
Russell and I had a question. What is the current?
He said we were pre-approved.
Oh, never mind. Russell didn't know.
Yeah, this was actually approved in
He
20,
didn't share with me. He got the answer. I apologize.
We were here in '24,
yeah.
yeah, for the preliminary.
And they never were under the moratorium because they're less than 3 units an acre. And it's R10, it was already zoned R10 years ago, so.
Now, before y'all came in, the gentleman on the left, on the front row, was singing y'all's praises.
Yes,
And
thank
happy
you.
about that.
Thank you, Mr. Davis, is that right? Thank you, Mr. Davis.
I do have one question that was kind of he mentioned that he was happy to see this turnaround. That's not going to be gated in any way, is it?
Well, no, and I believe that's the hesitation of the public-private. We can get past that. If it needs to be public, then it could definitely be. I think at the time, we were hesitant for a security reason, but that's going to be more at the units, the security of the development.
I think his concern was sometimes people get lost and come down there and get trapped, and is that correct? Yeah. So I don't think it's going to be used
Yeah.
much, but maybe on
Oh, I think it'll
an emergency.
it will greatly help the
Right.
condition out there. But yeah.
I know they're trying to, doing a right of way around it, and I'd rather work with them. For 3 properties to pay for a cost of a street, long-term, that's gonna be expensive. I'd rather work around the right of way just around the street if we had to make it a public. I just think long-term, that'd be our best, because it'd be city maintenance.
I think what he's saying is
We'd pay for the street light on it. I just think long-term, that,
Yeah, we agree. Yes.
like I said, if we don't, I know it don't have a sidewalk, it's not gonna have a sidewalk on it because there's no sidewalks down Rose Hill currently. So we could make the right of way right on the back of the curb. I know they're trying not to, there's property dimension requirements, that's why we just need to make sure, so.
Sure. Yes.
Any other questions, any other comments? All right, we're looking for, could you put those, looking for a motion, and there's your options, and there's 2 staff stipulations on that. If you'll back up one more time. And any motion for approval need to specify these 2 stipulations as well. Should you go back to the options? And staff is recommending option number 1, is that correct?
3.
You're
I guess the question, we feel like there's several things left we didn't feel comfortable with. And if you all want to see them come back, definitely that. But if you want us to work through the items, I mean, that's item 1 is an option also. But the reason, one of my biggest thing is until we get something from TDEC basically alternate stream buffer requirements that TDEC gave us to enforce. We want to make sure, because that could change that pond design. And that's why we were, I mean, there was a couple items and details on the plans, like how the road cross sections, all that kind of stuff, but we really wanted to see that since it didn't meet our buffer requirement.
Okay.
And I'll just briefly mention that. So taking the cul-de-sac out of the pond, I believe I can reduce the size of that bioretention pond. And on one side, we have as many as 90 feet, even more, out of the buffer. And then we can get to the 60. We're acknowledging 30 everywhere. So I guess my point is that we can make that work with TDEC requirements as an average. I could have had, I didn't have a chance to have a display or showing that, but we can do that.
All right. Well, I'm looking for a motion. Staff is recommending option 3, but I'll leave it up to the board.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to deny this meeting and work through all the issues to bring back the next meeting.
So you are wanting to defer? Okay.
Defer, yes.
I have a motion to defer. Do I have a second? Not having a second. A motion to defer is tabled. Do I have another motion?
Mr. Chairman, I don't want to make a motion because honestly, I may end up seconding that, but if the concern is TDEC, when we have someone that used to work for TDEC and now owns his own company, would you care to speak on that particular item a little bit? Give us some meat on those bones?
Thank you. Yes, I'm Silas Mathis. I work for Davie Resource Group, and yes, I worked for the TDEC Nashville field office many years ago, but I'm have contacts there and have worked with the regulations for many years. The buffer regulations are applied through the Tennessee Construction General Permit for stormwater discharges. So that's the typical permit you get when you disturb over an acre of land to discharge your stormwater from your site. You make sure it's clean stormwater so you're not getting mud in the creek, basically. So that permit that you get from TDEC only applies to your discharges, and the buffers that are applied with that permit are only during construction. So TDEC has something called equivalent measures that are designed by the engineer that are more robust erosion sediment control measures that you can put into your stormwater pollution prevention plan. You add those measures in, and then TDEC can waive the buffer average requirements. So what we're going to do is take our equivalent measures. Usually it's a double row silt fence, wire back silt fence, some extra, maybe an extra temporary rock check dam, that sort of thing during construction to make sure that you've got really strong erosion sediment controls. You take that to TDEC, you say, hey, TDEC engineers, we've engineered this in this manner to reduce the amount of sediment that you would otherwise have with the buffer, that the buffer would protect from. So that's where we are. We just need to take that to TDEC and work through the equivalent measures process. And it's not a very common process. I mean, it happens, every so often, but that's why you all probably haven't seen it here in Goodlettsville too often. But I worked on one in White House recently, and it was a pretty straightforward process. I did some calculations today, and we are within the 60-foot average buffer that's required under the TDEC construction general permit, except for along that off-site stream that's to the north of the property. And we're getting in that 30-foot buffer and the 60-foot. We still can average that one out too, but we're getting in that 30-foot buffer because we want to take stormwater along a swale. So that's that swale, the very northern edge of the property. We want to take that through that buffer, and not discharge the stormwater directly, this off-site stormwater that's coming through the cul-de-sac there. We don't want to discharge it directly to that stream that's along the northern property boundary just off of us, because that stream has a state endangered streamside salamander. So we have come up with this alternative idea of taking a swale along the property boundary, allowing water to infiltrate. That's good for seepage that goes into that little stream through the buffer that's going to be there. We're going to replant that buffer with native vegetation, native shrubs, trees, and grasses, and actually improve that habitat. Right now, that buffer is pretty, it's a mess. It's mostly invasive species. It's really hard to even walk through right now, and it's privet and bush honeysuckle, and you guys have seen it before. You can't even get through a property like that.
Okay, so do you think you'll have that approved through TDEC in the next month? Like if you came back at the next meeting here, you'd have that already in place?
Yes, it sort of depends on when the SWIP submittal goes in. There's usually a 30-day wait on that, and the TDEC field office reviews the SWIP for 30 days. So during that process, we get involved and say, hey, let's go talk to the TDEC central office about these equivalent measures that have been engineered into the SWIP.
So if we were going to hold out to see that approval, we might actually be not in the March meeting, but our April meeting.
It's possible that it would take maybe 45 days to get all that resolved from today.
Okay. I mean, I'm not necessarily opposed to deferring. Our city staff has done a good job, and I've gotten to the point where I really trust them with stuff like this. So I'm willing to trust them on that, but at the same time that they kind of requested a deferral tells me they don't want me to put that in their lap. They want us to do our job here and kind of look at that stuff. So I'm kind of leaning to the deferral, but at the same time, my personal opinion is I trust the city staff to handle this. So I don't know where everybody else is on it. I guess I could go either way.
Adam,
Can I bring the motion to defer back up?
you've already tabled that. You can have another motion for deferral, but you cannot second that motion, previous motion.
Okay.
But I was going to say, our review staff is here. If y'all wanted to hear from them, if that helps anyone. It may not,
Well, I think that'd be a good idea. We want to see this project get along, but we also want to do the right channels.
Hello, Commission. We did a review of the 60-foot buffer, and because the stream is impaired, as Adam was saying, they can average 60 foot off of that stream, but from our review, it looked like it was a lot less than 60 foot. They were doing a lot of work in that 30 to 60 foot range. And the TDEC construction general permit specifically says no grading or soil disturbance in within an average of 60 foot of that buffer. And so that's why we recommended to Adam, we wanted to see either some kind of TDEC waiver or a redesign before we could recommend approval.
Okay. Any questions? Let's open the motions back up.
Mr. Chairman, may I ask a question? Adam,
Yeah.
this list of other items that you stipulated by staff, in terms of timing for getting those things done, how long would it take you to work through?
It's really how quick they can submit them. I mean, at this point, we kind of go off their submittals, so we'd have to be, there was just, when we went through the resubmit, there was a lot of questions we had left. Like I said, if you all want us to handle it and proceed, we just won't issue any land disturbance permit until all this stuff's done. That's fine, but if you would want to see it come back. Fortunately, they did bring the building design. That was one that and that was very important to you guys. We wanted to make sure of that before we went forward, but.
So theoretically, depending on what they submit, it could take 30 to 60 days for that submittal to come back to us with all those items.
It could be 2 weeks, it's up to them really on that end, so. But yeah, we're gonna, I mean, they could go ahead and go through the TDEC approval process. A lot of people will do that separately, it's a kind of a little before ours. But this is a little different because they're all kind of requesting a difference for them. We don't feel comfortable on our ordinance, the 30-foot minimum requirement, because it's a variance from our ordinance, but we don't we tell them we want to see something from TDEC. Now, if they want to come back and redesign it where that 30-foot is not a question, then.
Can I speak, Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
Okay, Adam, after all the discussion we've had here, revisiting it, we have full faith in you and trust in you. After this discussion, are you still more comfortable with deferring it?
Yes.
Then, with all faith and trust in Mr. McCormick, I'm going to make a motion to defer.
All right, we have a motion to defer.
I'll second.
We have a second by Mr. Parnell. Any further questions or comments?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. You guys, we totally support this project. We're excited about it. It's not that we're wanting to deny or push time out, but Mr. McCormick is as thorough as any planning member in the world as far as I'm concerned, so we're not against it, but we do want to do what Mr. Adam recommends. And thank you all for being here.
Let me ask one question. Is the proposal still to possibly do a single-family house on the other side? Okay.
Come to the mic, please.
The reason I ask is because if we're giving it in, if they want to do that, they can do it. We just need to include it, so.
I'm working with my partners on majority now. You know, I have Mr. Salvador. It was an idea that he's kind of tossed around. I would prefer that it be a part for the reasons that I said here in 2024. I believe that the quality of life, being able to have that green space in that lot 4 in the back, I mean, it's called Rose Hill Park. It's not called Rose Hill with another house on the back of it.
Yeah.
You know, so I believe we're at a place, me and Mr. Salvador, where we're going to be able to keep that as a park, but I can't just all the way confirm that.
Because he built a decorative entrance and a gate. I didn't know.
Yes, sir. Yeah, and that's just for the park.
Okay.
That's just for the park.
One good thing with where the creek is, as far as above the creek, the units are way above it on that side. That's what one of the questions. If there was going to be a unit on the lower side, elevation might be a question there. So, but a lot of stuff's changed. That's why I asked, because the owner originally, it sounds like the ownership's changed, was talking about building a house there, and we just wanted the plans to document that. So, thank you.
Okay. We have a motion by Mayor Tennant. We have a second by Mr. Parnell. Any further questions or comments? Hearing none, all those in favor of deferral say aye. Aye. Opposed? Thank you very much.
We'll have it on the March 2nd agenda. So.
We'll put you on March, and we hope to see you then. Okay, we're ready for a discussion item?
Yeah, if you remember at the public forum, at the last meeting, we talked about accessory dwelling units and another possible secondary dwelling units. The property we talked about was on Caldwell. It's a little over almost 3 acre site on Caldwell, the lot right in the middle. They've got permits for a house and an accessory building. Remember the accessory building, we looked at that. But they'd also like to build an accessory dwelling unit. And, you know, the history of it, we've talked about accessory dwelling units before at the planning commission level multiple times. We felt like, for whatever reason at the time, we didn't feel like didn't feel like it was something we'd want to see go forward with. So it is a request now. I put in the packet the last ordinance version we looked at. If you remember, we talked about this for several months. But accessory dwelling units are based on any residential property, they can do an accessory dwelling unit. An accessory dwelling unit per the ordinance proposed is a continuation of the same family. Like our zoning ordinance list, one family, a single family, it can be unrelated people up to 5. It can be, you know, any variation of it, family members from, they can live there with no limit on the number. But the accessory dwelling unit is basically an extension of that. So they can have a second dwelling unit on the property, either attached or detached. It's a continuation of the family there. The original ordinance would have to do deed restrictions on it. That way, you know, it couldn't be sold off. The intention is not to be apartments. I know there was concern long-term. Once we permit something, yeah, I mean, that's definitely, I think, was the sticking point, maybe why it didn't get forward. We also have, in other Middle Tennessee areas, an accessory dwelling unit, you know, because it'd be any residential property where they could do it. You know, private restrictions would still apply, so we can't override private restriction. The secondary dwelling unit is an instance, a little different, kind of the same process. We'd want to go to their appeals board. A secondary dwelling unit, the big difference is if you have a piece of property that's big enough that you could subdivide it and put a second lot on it, like the one on Caldwell. It's R40, you know, 120-foot lots, and the property's almost 3 acres. So they're more than, if they wanted to, they could come here and possibly subdivide. I know it's something we talked about, trying to limit subdivision. But a secondary dwelling unit, what it is, it's giving you, instead of subdividing it for a second unit, you put a second unit on the property. You do a deed restriction where you can't further subdivide it without creating the lot to make that a second lot. Ideally, they'd be set up where you would meet the setback requirements for the second dwelling unit. That way, if a lot line is put in the future, then it could become a second property itself. So that's the big difference. Accessory dwelling units are going to apply to a lot more properties because most of our subdivisions, I mean, to have the double the lot size of the zoning, there's, I don't know, maybe 10, 15% of them. Accessory dwelling units could be anywhere you don't have private restrictions that limit it. So secondary would limit the application of it. I think that was some of the concern that they could be everywhere. Another thing with a secondary, in our base zone districts, you have to meet the minimum square footage for like a house and the garage requirements for a secondary dwelling unit. Because what it is basically you're just permitting a second house on it. Like an example, on this property, say they built a primary house here, and you could build a secondary house and kind of still blend in with the setting of the neighbor. You could do it one beside it. I don't think they want to do that. Or you could do it behind it. The key is not for it to be in front, of course. But this property they could build a house here, subdivide it, and build a house in the back. So I think instead of subdividing it, they want to keep the larger tract, but they want the ability to do a second dwelling unit. And what our ordinance is, a second dwelling unit is a fully independent sleeping, kitchen, like living space facilities. You know, we have a lot of people that want to do an addition to their house, like maybe like a breezeway, do an addition. Maybe they have a bedroom, living space, and bathroom, but no kitchen. That's just an extension of their current house. But the cases where they want fully independent dwelling unit, as far as zoning ordinance, doesn't allow it. So that's where the ordinance amendment had to be to allow either accessory or secondary. I always like these set up too, where they have to go through the Board of Zoning Appeals. Not that I want to create extra steps, but it's a public process. The neighbors are aware. There's no question. It's a public hearing, so everybody has their speak on it. The worst thing we want to do is just kind of do these and nobody know, the neighbors not know, and all of a sudden they're building another dwelling unit. But that's what kind of is. I know that there is concern with accessory. I don't know if we really feel comfortable with that, but maybe the secondary in those cases where the lots are bigger. But it's really just our discussion tonight. Whatever we kind of talk about, if we don't want to proceed with it, or if we do, I can bring back an ordinance amendment to go forward with. I kind of put a draft of the secondary based on a previous city I worked in, the one we did there. There's just not as many of them. I don't think they really work as much because a lot of people don't have the property. I could see Patton Branch, Madison Creek. I could see out there because those properties are large. The only thing that really limits them out there is a lot of them don't have sewer. So you have to be large enough to have the septic capability for multiple. And a lot of private restrictions in neighborhoods aren't going to allow either one, and those would still apply regardless of what our zoning ordinance is.
What's the maximum square footage for an accessory dwelling unit?
Accessory dwelling unit, I think the ordinance we had was 700 square feet. The goal was to keep them smaller.
So this house, or this second dwelling on Caldwell will be 700 square foot or less.
I think they want a little bit bigger. I think they were around 1,000. Yeah, if they want us big. Yeah, just whatever. There was concern originally when we talked about accessory and being too big. We want to kind of keep them small, but that's something, I mean, it's up for discussion.
To me, 700 sounds pretty small for somebody to live in, especially a senior couple or what, I'm trying to visualize what that would be. That'd be one bedroom and a bath. probably.
Yeah.
So I want to do this in the right order. My daughter actually owns the property.
Could you speak up a little bit?
Yes, sir. I want to make sure I do this in the right order. I want to respond to that question, but the owner of the land is right beside me, so I'm going to let her start.
Hi, I'm Bethany. Nice to meet you guys. I think you met my husband, Drew, the last visit. So I wanted to make a presence tonight as well. So I'll let him.
Yeah, so the intent is, and it's a great point, but we feel like 1,000 square feet meets our needs for we call it the guest house, whatever you want to call it, that secondary unit. But I think what's really, really important, what we want to make sure we convey, or they want to convey, is that, as Adam pointed out, they could divide the property and put that second building on there, but it wouldn't be conducive to the adjacent property owner. So we're being respectful. They're being respectful of both sides of them, and they want to locate it in such a way that it conforms and lines up with the other units, and not have this broken up, if you will, tract of land with one building sitting out in front. And so they're not going to do that. We're just not going to do it. They're just not going to do it. But the idea is to conform. And so, and as Adam pointed out, as we understand it, the secondary dwelling unit says that you do have the space to do that, but you choose not to do it for a very good reason. So we do believe that, yes, Mr. Chair, yeah, we think a little bit more. If we had 1,000 square feet, that would be sufficient for us as the parents. And once again, the purpose of that is my daughter's a healthcare provider, so she can take care of her parents. So thank you.
Were you planning a garage on the back building too?
There's a garage connected to the main home. And as you're aware, Drew has built his workshop in the very back part of the property. So it would be far off. I'm not sure how many feet that is, but yeah, there's no detached garage in addition to that.
But even with the accessory of the dwelling unit, there wouldn't be a garage with that?
No,
Okay.
sir. No, just the building. And ideally, and Drew's working with an architect in his firm to hopefully come up with a conceptual for you folks to take a look at. I'm not sure if that got completed or not, but if you were to look at it, you would have their main house, which is roughly 3,000 square feet.
Yeah, it's about right here, if I remember right, roughly here. The
Yeah.
shop's back here in the back, but the house will be here. I think you're to the right, to the back, to the right.
Yeah, so if you were looking at it, you would see the 3,000 square foot home, and then the guest house would be closely located to it with the same type of roof line and materials and so forth. And I think most of that's going to be stone and hardy board or something like that. Anyway.
The goal's not for it to be attached, though. You prefer it to be detached?
If that's permissible, yeah, that would be the best. I mean, if it's permissible.
And this is going to be behind the house?
No, sir. It would be aligned with, and that's what's.
Okay, it'd be aligned with the side by side.
Yeah. So honoring the neighbors on both sides, as you can see how the homes are located, it would be pretty much in line with those homes as well.
The primary house be here, but the accessory, whatever we call it, would be in this area.
We're right beside it.
Beside it, okay.
Yeah.
So,
If you're looking at it, you'd have the 3,000 square foot home, and then the secondary. I'm going to get that. I understand secondary is a really important term to use, so it's that secondary building. And so the difference is they could put a second building on this property, but they're choosing not to, so that it conforms and aligns with their neighbors.
It's back, way back here, yeah. They're actually, they permitted the house and the workshop, the board had to approve the materials on the back building, several months ago, but yeah. It's a gorgeous home. I mean, it'd be, nothing they would do would be, it'd be first class, but I know we just have to think how we'd apply this, not just to them. The secondary would limit the application of it versus the accessory. It's gonna be a lot more possibility for those.
I don't mean to interrupt, but I think, Adam, you said it, that, I mean, each of these that come, there's gonna be, if you go the secondary route, then there's lesser a number of those that would qualify in our community to be able to do
Oh,
that.
yeah.
And then they would still have to come before the Board of Zoning Appeals, is that right?
And the goal there is just where they set it on the property and
Right.
looking at it, so.
Enough safeguards in place.
Mr. Chairman. So, Adam, being the houses side by side, if it was ever split, would the setbacks, are they in place to where that?
Oh, that's something we could look at and see, the R40 set, ideally, that's the way you'd set them up, where you could put a lot line and meet the setback requirements. We'd have to see where it is on the property.
Yeah, I don't think, if you line it up, that's where it's aligned with the neighbors, you wouldn't ever be able to split the property up.
Okay.
Once you build that, I think you're done if you locate it right beside it. So that's it.
If I heard you correctly, whenever a secondary residential unit is approved, it comes with a restriction that the deed, there's a line item added to the deed that the lot can never be subdivided ever. So it's not.
No, what it would be, but the tricky thing, that it'd be under the current Goodlettsville zoning limits. You know, like 40 years from now, say it's zone R8, where they do 8,000 square foot lots, that's a possibility, but under the current zoning,
Okay.
because that's the thing.
That's very different, because quite honestly, the only reason I was even remotely supportive of this was because we were adding a deed restriction that the lot would never be subdivided. And henceforth, the setbacks and whatever of an imaginary potential future lot line really don't matter. If we're not going to do that, and we're going to allow them to build a secondary unit on this lot, that might at some point be subdivided, and we're gonna have a 3,000 square foot house next to a 1,000 square foot house, I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm a no. I'm a hard no. So I don't know where, help me out here.
I mean, a deed restriction, if the whole Caldwell Drive, I don't see it happening anytime soon under a comprehensive plan we have now. But if the city come in there and rezoned all that to high density, I don't see how we could hold, 50 years from now, that this could never be subdivided. I think why it's in its current zoning and the properties next to it are in their current zoning setup, it would definitely limit things. We just can't put anything to never, because, 50 years from now, the city can change dramatically. We'll ask Russell his thoughts on that, but the intention is if everything stays out there the same, all the surrounding properties, then it can't be subdivided.
Yeah.
If they don't meet the setbacks of today, then there's no way it could be subdivided unless.
The city changed their whole zoning process.
Yeah, and I would even offer this, once again, I'm not the owner, but I asked this on to Bethany. We would offer a deed restriction in the deed. I mean, that would, regardless of what happens in zoning, that property would not be subdivided. We would offer that deed restriction.
I appreciate that. I really do. I mean, I'm supportive of what you're doing out there. I just, when we talk about potentially adding a zoning use and what we're gonna have in the books that everybody's gonna be reading and looking at and trying to follow, I just wanna make sure that we're not creating a problem, because it's not, no, I wouldn't want y'all to subdivide, but okay, sounds like you're not, and you're willing, and okay, great, but then
I mean, the city would have to rezone the property before they could, anything in the future could ever change on it.
Okay, but if we had somebody come in, well, okay, so before I ask that question, let me ask this one. So somebody has an 80,000 square foot lot, and maybe it's a just a flag lot. Maybe it's a flag lot. And it's R40, so you could put two theoretically, because 40 goes into 82, but it's a flag lot. So it doesn't really meet the code restrictions to subdivide it. You can't subdivide it further because it's a flag lot. It doesn't have enough frontage to subdivide into two lots, right? So
We allow
hopefully we're not
one
just-
lot to gain access to an easement, 50-foot easement.
Okay, so you could.
If the property's got to be dimensioned, the lot widths
Yeah.
and all that, that's it. Yeah, we allow 50-foot frontage for a lot, minimum requirement. Only residential. One residential can gain access to that 50-foot frontage with a 50-foot easement. Really depends on how it's laid out. If there's a house that's in that area, you know, because the setback in R40, side setback is not 50 foot. So say they got a flag lot, narrow front, it opens up in the wide, but the house is 10 feet off the property line.
My point being, if somebody had that
Depends on-
scenario, and I know I'm in the if
Yeah.
speculation world here, but if somebody had that scenario and came in and said, I want to build this secondary residential unit, and they put it back there, and you have a 4,000 square foot house, and you've got this 850 square foot secondary residential unit next to it because they had a family member that wanted blah, 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 and then somebody, you know, passes away, and now you've got this thing, and they're like, well, why don't we just subdivide the lot? And they come in, and now we've got this weird situation where I don't want that lot subdivided. That secondary residential unit was built as an accessory to, now I get the difference,
Yeah.
or why we want to kind of separate the accessory dwelling unit and the secondary residential. I kind of get that. But in that scenario, I think I struggle, unless somebody buys the whole daggum, you know, buys 15 lots and they're going to rip it all down and put up some commercial whatever, okay, at that point, all those rules fall apart.
Yeah,
but-
well, I guess that's what I was trying to say. If all those rules that this was all unapproved in the future fall apart, then it'd be hard to, I don't know how we could do a restriction if everything changes out there.
Yeah. I mean, I guess that's an interesting question. So you're telling me if somebody owned a property on Grace Drive or Geneva and there was some deed restriction put on it eons ago that said it couldn't be subdivided and a commercial developer went out there and bought 22 lots, that this city government would say, no, you can't build anything commercial there because there was a deed restriction 100 years ago. I mean, I can't imagine we would do that anyway.
I mean, hopefully the city will be around for several hundred years and things could, things
Yeah.
can change, and hopefully more than a couple hundred years, but I mean, things can change. Let me ask you this, one thing, the way it's set up in excess of the secondary, R40, you gotta have, I think it's like 1,300 square feet with a 2-car garage.
Okay.
That's why I was asking them how big, I mean, they're wanting to do less than that, how do you all feel? Because in our base zones, we do have a minimum square footage, living space, and a garage requirement.
Would that stop them from subdividing, being that it's built not meeting?
I mean, really, I guess the best way to prepare for being subdivided is just where they put it, the lot. I mean, I think we'd want to do the deed restriction, because by state law now, you can do horizontal property, you can do different things rather than subdivisions. That's why we want to put in there the goals that for not to be sold off, the same owner owns both. Ones that controls who uses it, and generally, like owner-occupied stuff's a lot better, but where you put the unit, where it couldn't ever be subdivided, under the R40 zoning at the current.
Yeah, I was my understanding was it was gonna be in the rear of this house, which would, that's just, I don't know if I just imagined that or what, but I just, yeah, and if you did that, then you wouldn't be able to subdivide. But, we also had these, we talked the last couple of months, and I think last month we talked a lot about making sure that the size of the house matches the neighborhood. You don't want to have a bunch of 1,500 square foot ranch houses, and all of a sudden somebody puts a 4,500 square foot mansion right beside it. We said, no, we don't want that. We want it to be, you know, kind of in line. And I don't see how this is in line with that thinking.
And I might be able to help understand that this secondary unit is probably going to be 10 feet away from, or so, from the corner of the existing house.
So it's
There's
gonna be close
absolutely
to
no,
it.
there's no way to meet any type of,
That was my understanding. It would look like it's part of
it's
a
going to look
larger.
like it's a part that's going to be so close. There's absolutely no way to subdivide that to meet any type of rules, and that was the intent. And so if that helps, I mean, once again, offering any type of deed restrictions, its proximity to the house is so close that there's no way that you could possibly meet divide that in any way. And from a square footage standpoint, collectively, as you can see from the pictures, I'm not sure how big Bill's house is right next to the left, but obviously those are big homes, and so it's going to look consistent with those, and so
What's going to be between that 10 foot? What's going to be in that 10-foot section?
probably just some type of plantings or a little patio area for both units to enjoy and my daughter to take care of.
It meets the idea, the design look of an accessory dwelling unit, but I know we're trying to figure some way in our zoning where those wouldn't be, all of a sudden we have 4,000 of them in the city. I think that was the concern originally. So look-wise, it's kind of accessory, but it function, and if we set it up, if we go forward with a kind of a secondary.
We just felt like the secondary approach, when Adam mentioned that to us, so yeah, that's what we're trying to accomplish is, you know, making sure it looks consistent. I've already mentioned this, but not divide it in such a way that it looks awkward. And as an engineer and surveyor, I've seen very awkward lots, and they look silly, and you're going, oh, that doesn't look well. We just want to make sure it looks right, and that even there won't be any division here, but we don't want an odd-looking division piece of property as well. So, because that creates more problems in the future. And so I think locating it close enough to the building and where it looks like it's part of it.
So
same materials.
if we're going to talk about that, and correct me if I'm wrong, Adam, does it make a difference if it is connected or not connected? So if we're only talking about 10 feet apart, and we make a connection between the two.
If they could do what they wanted at 10 foot with a connection if they didn't have a full kitchen in it.
Full kitchen, okay. Thank you for your answer.
Like if they just had a microwave, it's not a second dwelling unit at that point.
Okay, I wasn't sure.
And we have several of those. They have a breezeway. I did several houses in Fairview and Gallatin. If you go there and look, you know, all of them have the archway over the garage. The garage over here have the archway connected, and a lot of them are that way. They have full living space attached to the house. They're over there, but they don't have kitchens in them. That's the.
I mean, you want some level of independence.
Yeah.
Right? But close enough to be taken care of as well, so.
So they're wanting to do what the request is, and, I mean, this is something a lot of people have asked to do. I mean, not just them, but.
Right. And I think this board is, we're gonna get there, but it seems like the other, I guess, differences between where we are with accessory dwelling unit and secondary residential unit is we're not requiring it to be a family member, which I'm grateful for,
Yeah.
because I don't want to enforce that.
Yeah.
And two, I guess the utility meter boxes, you know, we kind of took out, I don't
In
see
accessory,
that in
yeah, they
there.
weren't separate.
They're
and all that.
required in the accessory to have the same meter box, but not in the secondary.
Mhm.
And I'm just kind of wondering necessarily, should we care about that? Or what was the thinking of taking that out? Because it feels like the reasoning to do this is to kind of get past that 700 square foot so they can actually have a livable space for them. I'm not really sure what.
Okay. I mean, if that's something you all would feel comfortable, like I said, this is just a draft, just to throw it out there. We talked in detail about accessory. We hadn't ever talked about secondary.
And if it helps on this situation, we intend to have just one service. It's not separate services. So the intent is
And like, I mean, it's something,
so if that.
I can put that in if we want the accessory to maintain that. It's just, I just kind of treat them a little bit different, but I can see if we want to kind of bring more of the accessory limitations to it.
I mean, it
but-
is going to have the same address.
Put you on the spot, you know, if we get ready. Mr. Chairman,
I don't know.
since we're going to be having to live with whatever decision is made, do you mind if I ask the city attorney to offer some input?
I'd appreciate it.
Thank you.
In what particular area, Mr. Ellison? I guess my thought is if what we're trying to do is create a greater square footage of a secondary building, dwelling unit, SDU, this one is going to be placed on a lot that could be subdivided, but where the building's going to be placed, it'd never be able to be subdivided. So in the end, all you're creating here is you're creating a guest house on a lot. I mean, that's all in the end you're doing. That we know in the past, we've dealt with guest houses and people want to start with the good intention of having the mother-in-law quarter, as they call it, or whatever you want to call it. You could put a restriction on the lot that it can't be subdivided in the deed. I think that'd be a valid restriction. I just, from the legal side here, I think we have to be careful from prior precedents we've set on this, that we got to really narrow it and specifically tailor this to particular lot sizes and zoning districts, or we're going to probably get in a little bit of deep water that we have given this person the rights to do it and we've denied it in other lots and situations. So
That's why the secondary
it's gotta-
kind of more
It's
of
got to
a,
really be tailored to meet lot size and with with the restrictions for the lot not to be subdivided in the future. And also look at the possibility of where the building is placed and that it would obviously not be able to be subdivided then because of setback. In other words, the building has to be within so many feet as to almost look like it's just accessory, but it's secondary. And I think that's where you were headed, Mr. Parnell. You want it to, I mean, it's going to look like it's accessory, but it's really, we're calling it a different thing because we're putting a full kitchen in. And then the question then becomes, we'll have to change the square footage from 700 to something else.
yeah, I think the secondary goal would not be as, that was just a point to try to
I think
limit.
we ought to
the
have a
access.
minimum. I think if we're going to do it, it probably ought to have a minimum and a maximum maybe.
Well, R40, if we're, a typical second, the reason I was asking them, like I said, R40 requires a minimum I can't remember the number, 1,300 square feet with a two-car garage. So I know that's not what they're wanting to do, so it would have to be crafted. So that's you're looking at almost a 2,000 square foot
And then
house. at that
obviously, if
point.
you require a garage on it, it's definitely going to look like a separate dwelling. I mean,
I know that's what they're not trying, they're
Yeah, I
trying to make
know,
this
but-
look like part of it,
but
yeah.
these are some things I think this board's going to have to really tailor for the final decision.
May I ask a legal question?
You can ask.
So if we include this into our zoning matrix and all the approvals are permitted only by conditional use, which I assume they would be.
Yeah, I'd want to keep it that way.
So then we have people coming in and making requests, and we can look at them case by case and see if it makes sense, like theirs does, and we could approve it based on what makes sense. And just kind of, if we feel like they're creating a situation that might create problems in the future, or somebody might try to subdivide it or do something funky, we could kind of create restrictions on the fly as a board as part of the conditional use permit. Would that create any legal issues for the city?
Yeah, because I think once you create the zoning, then it runs with the land. The zoning's going to run with land, but I understand the conditional use aspect of, I would say probably you're going to have that issue, yeah, because if it's, once you zone it and it's allowed and you've created it, then it's going to be very difficult to say no. I mean, it's just like we have lots, we have zoning districts now, and somebody says, hey, I'm in an R40, I want to build a, 1,230 square foot house and put a two-car garage on it, 75% brick or stone, they get to do it. I mean, so if we say anybody on an R40 or whatever lot has the ability to put a secondary dwelling unit on it, people gonna do it.
Oh, yeah, we've had a lot of people
Well,
ask.
they are
I
gonna
would
do
do
it.
it. I would do it.
I would do it. I mean, there's a lot of people in Goodlettsville that almost, honestly, it would improve the lives of a great number of people
It would.
to have this option.
And again, this is
so I
no offense
want this.
against any individual, because it's a concept that we all think about when we have parents and, or ourselves, as we may need to be
Right.
in that situation.
My concern
The
is not that
concern's the
there's.
next level, beyond what it was intended for the first go-round,
Right.
then that's what we've in the past always had to deal with.
I mean, really, the key, we could set up the secondary way. The only difference in secondary is they have to have a lot double the size. It's basically eliminating anybody can just do it in their backyard.
I think that's the double the size thing is being the only requirement is my concern. Because that flag lot that I was talking about, it may be double the size, but it's not set up for a two-house with different owners situation. I wouldn't mind if they wanted to do a secondary residence for an in-law or whatever, fine, you're all one family doing whatever, but I wouldn't want it to be subdivided after that.
Yeah.
And so I just, if it was conditional and we could look at it and say, okay, this situation, we don't even need to have it in the deed because just how it's laid out, it's never going to be subdivided, not a worry. But there's going to be situations where somebody brings one in and it's designed where it could be subdivided later, but it doesn't, but it wouldn't fit the neighborhood anymore because the secondary house is just too small for it doesn't fit. So I would want to, in that case, as a member of this board, say, I want to approve this, I want this person to be able to do this, but I want them to have it restricted so that this is not going to be subdivided in the future.
But if they didn't have the house with the square footage and the garage, then it couldn't be subdivided, correct?
I guess that's an attorney question,
Well,
right?
you talking about based on setbacks?
Setbacks and the size and meeting our building requirements. If they're building 1,000 square feet that's not meeting the requirements of today, if they go to subdivide it all,
Right.
it would not meet those
That'd be
requirements.
hard.
Subdivide it all, is my thought.
Unless the zoning changed.
That's a whole nother.
Yeah.
Could-
And that's
could I-
going to be, if the zoning all change, that's the city changing everything anyway, so.
But based on how it's done and everything, there's no way that
I definitely think we can leave the deed restriction there, definitely not to subdivide it. I think that would be a minimum.
Could I offer one other thing? I think within those, someone said this and said it well, that it needs to be really tight restrictions on this so that you protect the city and for those things that we don't want things to happen. And in my mind, we talked about, number one, the size of the lot. Number two, the proximity of this guest house, whatever you want to call it, to the main structure. So if it has to be located within a certain distance of that structure, there's no way to divide it and meet all the setback requirements. So I think there's some detail type things, even deed restrictions. There's some detail things that can be embedded in that would preclude that from ever happening.
I'd be almost more worried about the horizontal property, where they make two lots out of it more than. Because I don't think we can really deny, though, if the zoning allows something, I don't think we have the ability to tell them they can't do the horizontal property. But that's a whole different world, so.
Did we not do something like this a year or so ago on the Davidson County side as a dead-end street? I can't think of the name of the street. But they had a weird-shaped lot, and we had to do the driveway different, and they put a mother-in-law apartment or whatever on the.
Hey, we've never had it in our zoning ordinance to allow a secondary one.
That sounded like we did something.
We might have done something to subdivide a piece of property, but.
I mean, maybe it's, I think it was subdivided, but it was a weird subdivision.
And one thing too, on the subdivision, now with our
Yeah,
comp
it's
plan,
off Rose Hill, I remember that, so. I mean, there's no buildable lots past this house, I mean, just straight down.
I don't remember.
Mr. Chairman, are you all amenable to a deed restriction on subdividing the property?
Yes, sir. Well,
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
I
want our attorney to hear that. I didn't.
Talking to Mr. Freeman, that's probably the best way. I mean, when you get a conditional approval on this or anything else going forward, it really becomes a subjective versus objective, and you make the wrong mistake, and a good attorney, it's not going to turn out good for the city, as has happened not too long ago. But hang on a minute.
I guess, you know, and this is really more of an Adam question than for the planning board. I've always wondered why we would not allow 2 kitchens anyway. I mean,
Yeah.
there are a lot of people who want to build a nice home and maybe have that secondary kitchen for like prepping food and a
If it-
dining area for entertainment or something.
It depends on how it's set up. Like if they build a garage with only a kitchen in it, that's one thing. But if you build that, you have bedrooms, bathroom. Our zoning ordinance requires, these zoning districts allow 1 dwelling unit per lot, per property.
Okay.
And when you have all those things independent, sleeping, bedroom, kitchen.
In the
it's a second-
accessory building,
It's
yeah.
a secondary dwelling.
even if it were connected?
Don't matter. The zoning doesn't dictate if it's one or, you can't have 2 independent dwelling units on a property unless it's zoned like for duplexes or something. I mean, that's basically what you're doing. If you attach a full dwelling unit, you're making them into duplexes, and only on certain zone districts are they allowed.
Adam will commit to only cooking 30% of the time.
I mean, we could set up an ordinance I think you all would feel comfortable with. I just wanted to see if we felt like the secondary might be an approach we like better.
I was thinking you just get you an outdoor kitchen, you know, just don't
tell-
cook inside.
I've got a Blackstone. I'm getting pretty good at it. Those things are pretty
And
nice.
the good thing about the BZA, one, I'm more about the open process for it. Everybody's aware. But 2, it's the setting of the units. Like, say the property's 400 feet wide, and they could do a second dwelling unit right beside it on lots, you know, portion of the lot 200 feet wide. So it would look like a blend in, versus in this case, it's more about trying to make it all look like one of the main one.
50 years from now, if this gets subdivided, I'm going to be ticked. So,
And I think what you're saying basically, Russell, if it's an addition on the back of the house, what's the difference, in a sense?
Can't do that if it's a full kitchen with a dwelling unit in it.
That's what I'm saying, it's almost like a,
Yeah, even though it doesn't have it's going to have a secondary entrance, we don't allow for the kitchen attached in a dwelling unit. But you can subdivide a lot and put a 1,230 square foot house in the back, and they can have their 3,000 square foot house in the front. We couldn't do anything about it. And they can call it what they wanted to. Isn't that correct, Adam?
Well,
I said, technically, they could subdivide the lot, do a minimum build allowed under the district, the zoning district, and the front house could be the 3,000, 3,500 square foot house that they intend. And we couldn't do anything about that.
we do have that provision where in an established neighborhood, we
Yeah,
don't.
that it has to.
It's tricky. That's what I'm saying.
But if we set a minimum, it's with, you know,
That's why I think the secondary under zoning, because when we do something like
we
this.
see a lot of areas where people are building 4,000 and 5,000 square feet houses, and believe it or not, we just recently got rid of a mobile home that was sitting across from them at the school at Madison Creek. So, I mean, that's certainly not consistent. Now, I understand it was there, it had been there a long time, but there's not all 3,000 to 5,000 square foot houses out Madison Creek and Patton Branch.
That's correct.
But if they get the zoning, they can build the minimum size house for that lot.
And I'll just be out, Madison Creek, Patton Branch, sewer is your biggest limitation for anybody to be able to ever do a second unit unless the property's, I don't know, 6+ acres. But I think you will have people in those areas doing them. I've had a lot of people requesting it, a lot. The secondary, it's just not gonna allow somebody in a R15 neighborhood, they got 17,000 square feet, like on Jeanette, a good example. Those lots are R15, they're about 17, 18,000, the biggest. It would not be able to do a second dwelling unit there just because they don't have the land. But they could do an accessory dwelling unit if we had that ordinance.
Can I ask Adam a question? Is a first step maybe to do the secondary?
I think that's what, in the past, what we've talked about accessory and your concerns that discussed during the accessory, I think the secondary is our best option because it limits the application of it. Like Russell was saying, certain zone districts.
Could there be acreage tied to that as well?
It could. I think we'd have to be careful because the majority of our city limits, are on smaller lots. I mean, don't only allow people large lots. I think large lots, like say minimum 3 acres.
I think two plus or something. That would stop neighborhoods from coming at us. I don't know. That's just a thought.
We would be in favor of that.
That way you wouldn't have a quarter acre lot trying to have 1,000 square foot.
Yeah.
That'd be my thought. What was that? An acre, like an acre size of a lot to go along with it. It has to be above 2 acres or an acre and a half, whatever, before it can be considered.
Yeah, we could do that, could we? I mean, there's no restriction there, Adam.
You're just limited to,
You have to have a minimum of X amount of acres to even apply, which is going to be,
I mean, it's just limited to certain areas of the city where they'd be allowed. I mean,
because it's based on acreage size.
What was the scenario on Caldwell where we denied a house being built on is a double lot?
that was on up,
Yeah.
they
that was
were,
before
wanted
we
to
got
rezone it to
That's right.
another single-family house, and this is denied, so.
Well, I think it's a duplex on one. They wanted to put a single family,
They wanted to subdivide it under the R15 to do a second lot on it.
and we didn't allow that. Okay.
If y'all feel comfortable me coming forward with something, I'll take some of the things I've heard, and I'll incorporate that in the secondary. I can make the secondary work a lot better. I hear what Jeff was saying, I can add some of that stuff. And I think of our choice, that's our best option.
And make sure you dumb it down some for me, too.
It's tricky. One thing I just wanted to note, March Planning Commission, the City Commission in December requested, remember we talked about these 10 properties on high density that are vacant, 4 of them had vested rights, 6 of them didn't. They requested the Planning Commission come back to look at the zoning on the 6 vacant lots that aren't vested, if we want to keep the high density zoning or not. So at the March agenda you'll get in the morning, one item will have 6 possible zonings on it. Now, we're not saying what the zoning is. It's not a typical rezoning where we're saying from high density to R10. It's just saying to review the zoning districts, but I'm treating it as a rezoning because the city commission want a recommendation back. So it'll be a little different. I just kind of want to warn you ahead of time. We'll have to send, Sarah and I talk, we'll be sending probably 800 or 900 notices out because, we treat each one of these as a rezoning. So just be aware when you see that, what it is.
A lot of citizen comments, you think?
I don't think you will, because I think the owner will comment, but I think most the citizens, as they hear we're trying to get rid of high-density zoning, I think there's going to be confusion that we're doing high-density zoning, which we're not. The goal is to review zoning already in place if we want to look at changing the high-density zoning. I didn't feel comfortable doing it as a discussion item, because I think the city commission want a formal recommendation back to them. Discussion item, you all came on discussion item, give them a formal recommendation. We discussed this in the study session, and we adopted the comprehensive plan in December. If you remember, we kind of talked about it, but we didn't give a formal recommendation. So that's what this will be. There'll be some confusion about it, but I think when the citizens call us, which I'll get called a bunch, and I'll just tell them, it's already zoned high density. We're looking at, do we want to maintain that or something else? One of the properties, the big tract on Dry Creek, the owner's actually working with the developer, and they're willing to go down to a medium density and do houses instead, right now, it's like 72 condos, but they're willing to do homes at a medium density. So that's something, they'll be there for sure. He was at the last meeting, him and the developer, so we'll see how that one goes. But the rest of them, you know, they're on the Dry Creek area. So just be prepared when you see it. What is this? That's what this is.
Last time I tried to, when we were talking about this months and months ago, I tried to find some of these properties. I could never find them.
Some of them, there's,
Yeah.
I just wanted to say, I know you have a lot on your plate, but I truly appreciate your time. We want to comply with what the city wants, but we do want to build something that we're proud of driving by, that other people who live here are proud of driving by. So, but we obviously want to comply with whatever you guys need, but we know you're busy, so I appreciate you letting us talk about it tonight.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
my goal will be have this back at March, a pretty big agenda for us. Back at April, Planning Commission, my goal would be have an ordinance for their review, like for vote in April based on our discussion tonight, so.
Okay, thank you all.
Anyway, I was having a hard time finding some of those lots.
Some of them are hard to get, and some of them don't really have, like, you drive by, you don't know they're there. Like, one of them is 6 acres along the east side of I-65 wall. You can't even see it. It's got billboards and like a big cell tower on it now, so. There's a reason a lot of these properties hadn't developed in a long time, and you'll see next month, we'll talk about it. But I just wanted to prepare you, when you see the ordinance, what is it, the agenda, what that is, and that's what it's for, so.
Are we done?
Yeah.
Anybody else have any questions or comments? All right.